Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm going to be reading some books. You read the title, let's talk about it. If you haven't seen Stuck in Love, I'm going to briefly talk about the movie, and the link to the YouTube version is down below. It is censored, so if you want to hear curse words, you can search it up, Stuck in Love 2012, and it's always on a streaming platform, and watch it on one of those. So it's about an acclaimed writer, his ex-wife, and their two children, and their journey with love and life. It was originally titled Writers, and I feel that if it was titled Writers, then people would watch it more often than not. I feel like it would have reached a bigger audience that it could be catered to, but I understand that Stuck in Love is such a nice title because I'm stuck in love with Stuck in Love. It is such a cozy watch for me. It does take place during the holiday season, so the location and the time of the year is just so nice, and everything and everyone is so beautiful. I can put it on any time of the year. I try to watch it once a year, and sometimes more than once if I really am in a slump and just need some good vibes, because these people feel so human, and I would watch a reality show of the people involved. I think it is such a fun story. I was contemplating whether or not to put plot points in why I chose the books that I chose, and I realized that for fans of the movie, they would like to know how I came to this conclusion of putting the reading list this way. So if you haven't seen the movie but are interested and you'd like to hear the reading list later, then click out now. I'll give you a second. If you don't come back, that's okay. And maybe I'll see you. Maybe not. But for those that are excited for me to talk about all of the books, let's give the people a minute to click out and find the pause button. Hi friends, are we ready to read? Well, if you haven't read these books, you can obviously join with me, but if you have, I would love to hear whether or not you liked them or not. So let's get into honorable mentions that are not featured in this reading list but are featured in the movie. I am not going to be including series for the pure fact that I have 29 books on this list. And I only made 2 exceptions to the series rule because Lou is the only exception. Okay, so let's give some shout outs to Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan, Into the Sun and Other Stories by Robert Duncan Milne, and Rabbit at Rest by John Updike. So Da Vinci Code was shown in the beginning with Sam and good-looking frat guy who is a young Glenn Powell. His credit is good-looking frat guy, so I thought that was fun. And Lord of Chaos and Into the Other Sun and Other Stories are featured on Rusty's bookshelves, and Rabbit at Rest is featured on Bill's desk. So they will not be read this go around, but they are added on to my TBR. I tried, it's actually really hard for me to find Into the Sun and Other Stories, but it looks really cool, so I'm gonna have to try to find that in like a used bookstore or something, because it looks really sick. So let's go off first with Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is also featured in the good-looking frat guy scene where the roommate has books on his nightstand or dresser. So Sam is getting published by Scribner, and her and Bill mention different authors that have been published by Scribner, and the book that I chose for Ernest Hemingway is The Sun Also Rises. I believe I also read this one way back in the day, so I don't remember much. And the one that I will be reading is the Library of America corrected text that a leading Hemingway scholar corrected numerous errors, restoring key changes made to his original punctuation, most notably the novel's famous last line, and reinstating references to real people removed by editor Maxwell Perkins for fear of libel or scandal. So it's going to be as close as it could be to Hemingway's original version without the risk of a lawsuit. And I'm excited about that. It's his debut novel in 1926. And moving on to the next Scribner author, I'm going to be reading Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. That is his debut novel in 1952. And I picked that one because we're watching a movie with Sam publishing her debut novel, and it's such an exciting time, so I want to also read exciting times with different authors, you know? So then we're moving on to David McCullough. I'll be honest, this is one of the least it's one of the least excited I am to read, because I just would rather go to a museum or watch a documentary than read about history. I find it quite laborious, so to know that he has just gigantic books about 1776, John Adams, Truman, I didn't want to pick those. So I chose Brave Companions for the pure fact that they are smaller, shorter stories. It's an anthology of historical figures that if I'm going to get into his writing style and commit to a huge ass book, I want to start it off with a small win, and that will be Brave Companions for me. And then next mentioned is F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I'll be reading Trimalchio, which is the early and complete version of The Great Gatsby. It was written during the summer of 1924 and submitted to Maxwell Perkins, his editor at Scribner's, in October of that year. He titled the book after ostentatious partygoer in the Satyricon of Petronius. Perkins had the novel set in type and sent the galleys to Fitzgerald in France. Fitzgerald then heavily revised the galley pages, shifting material around and changing the title. The result was The Great Gatsby. And it has key differences, such as the plot and structure are not the same. 2 chapters of Trimalchio were completely rewritten for the published novel. Characterization is different. Nick Carey's narrative voice is slightly altered. And it contains several passages and sequences missing from Gatsby. Most importantly, in Trimalchio, Jay Gatsby's past is revealed in a wholly different way. So I chose this one because I've already read The Great Gatsby, so I wanted to try a different version of it. And in the movie, Just Saying Hi was shelved because Bill's editing hand was a little heavy for Sam. And if F. Scott Fitzgerald didn't have his own editing behind it, would we have seen The Great Gatsby? If Maxwell Perkins made changes to it without Fitzgerald, would we have seen The Great Gatsby? Curious. Color me curious. And the last Scribner author mentioned is Bob Dylan, who wrote Tarantula. And he has cited that he did not sign up to write this book and that he was in such a hurried days of the craziness that is 1964 and 1965 that he just submitted something. And what became of it was Tarantula. So I want to know what a genius like Bob Dylan can write when he's not intending to write a book. I think it'll be fun. It'll be his debut novel. I know that he has written other things about music and poetry, but I wanna see what Tarantula is about. I wanted to know what a 2-time winning PEN/Faulkner Award author writes like, because Sam mentions to Bill that he can't be a fool in these streets and have police called on him. So I found out that there are 3 real-life authors that have won twice before 2012, which is when the movie came out. Ha-Jin's Waiting, which won in 2000. I chose it over 2005's War Trash because due to my personal taste, I feel like I'm more interested in reading Waiting. Next up will be John Edgar Wiseman, and he won in 1991 with Philadelphia Fire. And I picked it over 1984's Sent for You Yesterday simply because it's very hard for me to find it. But I am interested as well into reading that one. And the third author will be E.L. Doctorow, who won in 1990 with Billy Bathgate. And I picked that over 2006's The March. So getting back into mentions by a character, we'll be talking about The Sports Writer by... who wrote this one? Please hold. Richard Ford. I started it already and I like it. He's reading Bill. Bill is reading this book while he's sitting on the lawn chair, running into Trisha Wolcott. And he's reading it when he fell asleep in the backyard porch chair when Erica visits him. And then we'll be moving on to Flannery O'Connor. I'm going to be reading The Complete Stories. And this was mentioned when Bill gets caught reading Rusty's diary, and they discussed that she said nothing needed to happen in a writer's life after they were 20. By then, they had experienced more than enough to last their creative life. And he feels that Rusty isn't living enough life. And later in the movie, he says, ooh, Joan Didion, Blue Nights. Erica is reading it in bed when she's calling Sam. I also started that one, and I can already see why she was reading it at that time. And I might cry, I feel. I might cry for a lot of these, actually. They pick some really sad bummers, you know? But it's okay. Next, I'm going to be reading Catcher in the Rye, even though Sam says to Lou that it isn't an interesting take to claim this as a favorite novel. I don't know. This has been on my did not finish list for a very long time. I pick it up and I put it down. I just keep rereading the same few pages, and I don't know why it's not well loved. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's well loved because people do claim it as their favorite novel. So I don't know why it's polarizing, moreover. But I'm going to find out. And then another choice for Sam's pick on it's not interesting to claim this as your favorite novel would be Portnoy's Complaint. And I did start this book as well, and I am concerned. I'm concerned about where it's gonna go. Next up, we have one of the personal liberties that I've taken, and that will be when Lou says that he writes mysteries. He names Elmore Leonard, James Lee Burke, and Ed Brubaker. For the pick of Elmore Leonard, I chose Tishomingo Blues because Elmore Leonard, rest in peace, said that of the books he has written, this is his favorite. And I only want to know what he's talking about now. I'm so curious. For the James Lee Burke pick, I'm going to be reading Rum Punch because Quentin Tarantino's only adaptation of a feature-length film that he's directed, Jackie Brown, was based on Rum Punch. I haven't seen Jackie Brown, but if I like this plot, maybe I will. And then next up is a mention by Lou and Sam, Ed Brubaker. He says he writes an incredible hard-boiled crime comic, and she says it's not exactly sweeping me off my feet that you read graphic novels, but she is reading it later on the beach with Bill when Trisha Walcott shows up, so she does want to know. Next up is Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. When Sam asks, just name your favorite book off the top of the dome, Lou says, Dear Mr. Henshaw, and I don't think I've read it. It's what made Lou want to be a writer, and he's read it probably 100 times, so it's on the list. Next up is John Crowley's Little Big, and it is the book that Lou is reading to his mom in bed, and it is the winner of the World Fantasy Award in 1982. It looks great. I'm excited to read it. It is a behemoth of a book, but not as a behemoth of a book as Moby Dick. Mentioned by Rusty that it's about everything, and they fit a lot into that book, and I keep reading the same few pages of that book and I can't get into it, but I think I just need to power through, and this reading challenge is going to help me do that, okay? I need to finish this book. I need to know what happens. There's just a lot of these classics that I just am scared to read because they're just so long, and I can't leave them on the do not finish list anymore, okay? I can't. Next up will be a personal pick. It's going to be Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. Patricia Highsmith is mentioned in the movie when Leslie refers to Lou as his Patricia Highsmith, and I chose Strangers on a Train because it's her debut psychological thriller novel, and I believe I've seen the film, so I'm excited to read the book. Next up will be What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, and that is Bill's favorite book during his speech at Sam's release party. I'm excited to read that one. Next up will be The World of Apples by John Cheever, and this book is mentioned when Bill has gotten Erica a signed first edition of this book, and he realizes that she really liked it, but it's not her favorite novel like he thought, because he just had this whole aura of like favoring books towards her, and he realizes that Sam has taken his copy from his library because he told her that that was her favorite book, and she wanted to know more about why Erica loves this book and feel closer to her while they are fighting. Next up will be a book that is shown on Rusty's desk, and that will be Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. I've read this one as well. I'm going to be rereading this one, and from memory, I think I liked it. I believe I liked the one that's dedicated to his daughter. What is that one called? Attic. A Light in the Attic. I believe I liked that one more, and it was dedicated to his daughter. But I think Where the Sidewalk Ends is going to be fun too. Next up will be Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone by James Baldwin. I believe it's James Baldwin. Let me write that in. And this one is shown on Bill's desk as well. So excited to read that one. I have other James Baldwin books on my list, so I thought, why not add this one to this reading list? And if you've gotten this far into me listing all the books, there's a few on here that have not been mentioned yet, and you're wondering, did I even watch the movie? And I sure did, okay? One of my other ground rules is I am not going to be reading all Stephen King books mentioned in this book, in this movie. I can't read all of them because Rusty's bookshelves, if you look at them, are just completely filled with Stephen King. I am going to be reading the ones that are specifically mentioned by a character in the movie, okay? So let's get into the Stephen King books. First off, It. It is Rusty's favorite book, coming from the biggest Stephen King fan, his self-proclaimed. And this is featured when Sam notices that Glenn Powell's roommate has it. She doesn't like Stephen King. I think that's funny. And Rusty gives Kate a special edition for the 25th anniversary of It. And I don't think I realized how big of a moment that was, because I looked it up and it was sold out within 30 hours of hitting the market. Can you believe that? So she got like one of, roughly, I think it was 900 copies. And she's just crying about it in rehab or wherever she is. Oh my gosh. Wow, what a king. He gave her that. It's adorable. Next up on the list of Stephen King will be The Stand. So The Stand is Lou's favorite Stephen King novel, and he tells that to Rusty at Sam's release party when he meets him. And then lastly, we're going to be going with The Body, when the king himself, Stephen King, calls Rusty to talk about his short story, and they talk about the opening line of The Body. The most important things are the hardest to say. What else? I don't know what happens in The Stand and The Body, but I am excited to read them. They look like a lot of story. A lot of these books are a lot of story. So I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through all of these, but I'm going to try to get through them within 4 months. I think I can read all 29 of these in 4 months. I'm gonna mark it here. Let's go. What day is it today? February 21st, 2025. putting it in here. Boom. I think that's ample time. I've already started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, 7, 8 of them. I'll see how it goes. So if you're interested in reading it with me, let's get it. And if you've already read any of these and would like to let me know your thoughts on them, comment down below. I realized that there isn't a cohesive list and reasoning why it's on a reading list for Stuck in Love. So this is me doing a service. I'm also going to be linking my Spotify playlist of Stuck in Love, songs mentioned in it. At the end, there are a couple from the soundtrack where I really was just so tired from listening to see where they put it in the movie that I just stuck it at the end. But if anyone else wants to let me know where they go in chronological order, I will fix it. So I'm gonna get back to reading. Thanks for watching, and hopefully soon you'll see a video about what I thought on all these books. I set the date for February 21st to be finished with reading all of them, but if I get them done sooner, then you'll see it sooner. I'll see you next time. Bye!